Several things on the agenda today. We're going to begin with the appearance of interested citizens. Members of the public may address the City Council and the Sutter County Board of Supervisors concerning any item that has been described in the notes in this meeting. I do have 3 speaker cards. If you have a speaker card filled out, please queue yourself up over here. Anybody else would like to speak, feel free to do so as well. We're going to start with Dorothy Camp.
Good morning, members of the council and lady. I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak. I've been speaking at the Sutter County meetings almost every week since I found out about this shelter. I came up here in 1991. There were not very many homeless people. Most of them were in Marysville. I don't believe I ever saw any in Yuba City. And then things started happening, and when there was issues with flooding, Marysville pushed all these people over to the side of the river, and they were put up in various homeless shelters. And this started a whole different era. When I came up here, these people that were up here were of the older generation, had seen some hard times, probably had been in the Korea War or something, or Vietnam or something like that, and they all had issues, but they never bothered anybody. The new generation now, it's a whole totally different story. They come and they steal stuff out of your yard. They go through your trash, even when your trash is not up on the side of the road. And I've been noticing in the last few weeks, because I go up Live Oak to drop my grandson off at the charter school, they're coming out from the houses to go wherever they go during the day. So what are they doing in the housing area during the night? There's no reason for them to be over there at all. And it bothers me because people put their houses on the market. They might be going somewhere else, and while they're gone, their houses are being ransacked. They're being, holes in the wall, all this kind of thing. And these people have no respect at all. What's it called? Hands of Hope tries to help them. They're losing faith in what they're doing. I get told things like, oh, when I hand them a bag at the end of the day so they can have a sandwich and something at night, they go, oh, peanut butter and jelly. I want ham and cheese. Excuse me? Did you work today? I don't think so. If you put this homeless shelter out there, what needs to do is these people, when they get up in the morning, they get put in the shuttle bus, they go on the side of the freeway, and they pick up trash. You work for that spot. You work for it. You don't stay there for nothing. It shouldn't be for nothing, because this is what happens. People feel like you owe them something. You have to give them a reason for getting that spot. And the other thing is, in every other city where they've provided homeless shelter, like these little shacks that we want to put up there, I want to call them shacks because they are, other people are going to come with their tents, and then the lawyers will come and tell you can't tell them they can't bring their tents, and you can't tell them they can't squat there too. And what are you going to do with the animals? Are you going to be asking animal control to come over and tell them that they need to get the animals neutered, spayed, all the shots, all that kind of thing? And who's paying for that? Because these people have no money.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Camp. We appreciate your comments. And let's see here. Sarah Morrow, step up. Thank you. And if I could have Steve Albrecht queue up, please. Welcome, ma'am.
Hello. I appreciate that you guys are finally having this meeting. We've been promised answers on this project for months, since January, if not longer than that, when supposedly for a year or more that you've been planning this with community outreach. Instead, we've been met with deception at every corner, I feel. You've made it obvious that you are not to be trusted, in my opinion. So I appreciate this meeting, but I really don't know how to take in and appreciate any of the answers I'm going to get from being here today. We were told, look, there's no building going on. It's not going to happen at that location, only to find out that, yes, it is, but it's being hidden behind the building on Live Oak instead of in front. This does not help my neighborhood from the crime wave that is coming for us with this installation of temporary shelter. You are taking a citywide, statewide problem and condensing it and dropping it in our neighborhood. We've been told over and over again that there are no answers for us because it's an experiment, but an easy search online shows exactly that within 3 to 4 blocks of a shelter, crime goes up considerably, about 56%. This is a no-brainer. We've been told that patrol will not be upped preemptively in our neighborhood. We've been told that in considering someone for shelter, their past history of violence will not be in consideration in housing them close to a hospital, schools, senior living, and established neighborhoods and businesses. This came from Scott Thurmond. We've been told we don't know, this also from Scott Thurmond, if sexual predators will be considered in the same location. These answers are unacceptable. When we were told that the location had been changed to 2nd Street, we were told at the same time, keep it hush-hush, which showed me that this is how the whole project has been dealt with the entire time. While there may be another installment at 2nd Street, this information of a change of address was a lie. Canceled meetings, lies, changes of meeting venues, most if not all meetings happening when most of your constituents cannot attend and voice our unanswered concerns is unacceptable. Anyone thinking that they are doing this to help the homeless, don't be deceived. They are doing this to avoid lawsuit, which is evident from this packet, which I kind of expected some other answers to be there. We've been told by the committee that they expect this to fail anyhow. So this is a very expensive experiment. All of your actions have shown continued deception. There's no way now that the people in this district can trust any of you.
Thank you, ma'am. If we can have Steve Albrecht up to the podium, please.
Hello, I'm Steve Albrecht, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. And thank you for listening to me in the past. I know I've spoken to several of you directly, and I've got the feeling that you're very concerned with the homeless issue. I've spoken to my Supervisor Flores, spoken to Vice Mayor Mr. Cardoza, and Mayor Harris, and many others, Mr. Smith. And so thank you for that. I do get the feeling that I'm being listened to. But, you know, one of my focuses here today is to talk about the rights. You know, usually at these workshops, you talk about the rights of the homeless, but where are the rights of the citizens? You know, I'm a tax-paying citizen. So are all the other people, my neighbors on 2nd Street. I live just down the street from the homeless camp on 2nd Street. And so we're incredibly affected by the homeless every day. I encounter many of the homeless because they walk the sidewalk right in front of my location. And I have to deal with trash, property damage, trespassing. Since the last year, I've have now security cameras and on my property, and also I've just enhanced that with many trail cameras because of the trespassing issue. And so I'm here because I can be, but my neighbors can't be because they're working. And they're out there earning money for taxes for the benefit of the community. So I'd just like to share a couple of examples of how our area is impacted and how you know, people are generally in this area, they're very kind, very sympathetic to the homeless. Example, I go to the library. I'm there at the beginning of the day when they open up, and already there's a line of homeless using the restroom. And so I go in there and take care of my business there, and I ask the lady at the desk, well, you know, do you know that the homeless are using the restroom? Oh, yeah, we know. Well, why don't you post a note there so that the citizens know that, you know, there could be needles, there could be some kind of contamination. People are very hesitant to do that. I want to know what's happening in, you know, in our area so that I can be protected. What about all the contact diseases that you could get around 2nd Street, airborne diseases? Another example, I go to my doctor 2 weeks ago, and you think in your doctor's office, it's nice and clean and sterile, and you would think so. I go in there, there's a lady, a homeless lady that I recognize because I see her every day passing by my property. And she's camped out there with her 3 bags. And I go to the receptionist, well, why is this lady here? I mean, is she a patient? No, she's not a patient. She was being ignored. They didn't know what to do with her, so they ignored her. I was the one who had to call the police. So, where are my rights? Where are the rights of the other citizens to be forewarned and to be protected by the impact of homelessness? So there are things that we don't even know that are happening out there. And I want to know. I'd like the community to take proactive measures on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Albright. Can I ask one quick question, Steve? I missed where you said you had an interaction with someone at the restroom. Where was that again? That was at the library. The library, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
One more speaker card here. And again, if anyone else, something sparks you want to talk, feel free, please. Lee Jones.
Hi, Lee Jones, 212 C Street, Yuba City, just around the 2nd Street historical neighborhood. I resided there since 1971. And update for Mayor, I did walk 2nd Street today and felt completely safe.
Good.
I feel much safer at the library when I use the restroom, and for 2 years have volunteered in the garden at the Sutter County Library, wonderful library. They have put a security guard. I have not, in the 2 years in pruning the roses with my husband Bob, saw any needles in the area there. But they do have a security guard, which reassures people coming and going from the library. There's also a security guard I've noticed over at the courthouse, which is sitting empty. As owner of the bed and breakfast for 35 years, I've heard homeless is rampant throughout the United States. I've heard stories from guests. Portland has a tremendous problem. Of course, San Francisco, 17% of the population. I'm glad we're meeting today. It's time to get off our butts and do something. Excuse my French, but we can't just, turn the other cheek. We have to address it. I know I've heard there's grants. I haven't talked to any of you, so I'm just coming from my experience living in a community that I'm very proud of and want to be safe. I had a guest who had a homeless walk nude past the front porch the other day, and I know Yuba City, you're going to collect over $1 million in TOT tax, and you want the hotels, the B&Bs, and the other locations to have a safe feeling. A lot of my guests walk to Plymouth Street to dine at restaurants, and they feel perfectly safe doing that. In the evening, I give them a flashlight to watch, but there's good lighting through Gaucher Park. That neighborhood is thriving, but we do have homeless. Bottom line, nobody wants it in their backyard. We had a place down 2nd Street. If you drive down to the airport, you would see this morning camp after camp after camp and tents and people living in cars. It's a whole nother picture of our community. I know Live Oak doesn't want them, but we have to do something. Another umbrella of the homeless I'm very, very concerned about is CASA. We have to do something about CASA. They have not done anything. It's just been ignored since they had their horrible fire years ago. So as you talk about homeless, think about a broader picture and what we're going to do about CASA, the shelter for battered women and children. As a retired principal, I lived through 2 shootings. Young mothers were shot by and assaulted by their husbands or boyfriends. And that's not the environment we want in our community, and it's still happening every day. But you have a big role to play, and I have been to meetings at Sutter County. Everything's been open. There's a wonderful Sutter County Commission dealing with homeless, and the big hang-up is where are we going to put them? And I know nobody wants it in their backyard, but they've got to go someplace. We've got to do something. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else care to say anything? Yes, ma'am. If you would please just state your name.
Morning, members. I'm Cindy Chandler, Executive Director for Family Soup. We're a family resource center for children with disabilities, and so we do a lot of information and referral, resource referral. And this last season, we've seen more mothers with young children that are homeless. It breaks our heart. We try to do our best to refer them to resources, but there's a dearth of resources for these young families. A mother with a toddler with no place to go that night. Other families that come in and say, yeah, the winter shelter's closed, and they gave us a tent. So these are students, these are young mothers with no resources, nothing to fall back on. So I just wanted to express this other need, this other homeless population that desperately needs our support. These are creating in the future a generation that's experiencing, severe adverse childhood experiences, and we know what that's going to lead to. When we see these kids as kindergartners, they're not prepared to learn. They just don't have that foundation or that ability in their wiring of their brain to be calm and be ready to learn. So I just wanted to speak on behalf of that homeless population this morning. Thank you.
Chandler, Cindy Chandler, I think.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
I'm Elaine Miles, and I thought everything was said. What she just said is true. We have to divide these people, those that are takers and those that are needers. Way back when I was young, my mother was in the hospital. My dad went to the door, flipping the pancake dough, because a guy knocked on it and said, "I'd like to do some chores for you and have a breakfast." My dad said, "No, you can come in and have breakfast." We had a railroad thing where homeless went there. They rode on the rails. The guy said, "No, I have to do something." Finally, my dad said, "Well, you can prune off of that tree over there just a little bit." The guy pruned more than one. We had apple trees. But then the guy told my dad, "There's a big sign down there saying that you're a taker. All these people come over here just to take from you." And he said, "But I believe we have to work." So he told my dad, ask him to do a chore. Well, that worked with some, but one guy, the first time I'd ever heard the F word, yelled at my dad. We have to look at who really has a need and who's just a taker. When I came out of Wells Fargo 2 weeks ago, there were 5 guys smoking marijuana, laughing like crazy and stopping the cars from going through. We have to have more control. So please, look at this in depth. And just having a small place that's going to take maybe 40 people, that doesn't solve our 700. So please, this is a big issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elaine.
Thank you for your time. My name is Bruce Simmons. I have one brief question to ask, and I would certainly appreciate it if we could get an answer on this, and it's in regards to the no camping ordinance. Evidently, there's an injunction by the state or the federal government says that you cannot enforce this ordinance because there's no place for the homeless to go. I'm going to take Yuba County. They got Fast Forward 14 over there and everything else. They still have a problem in the Thorn Tree area and that Hollywood Park and everything else. Is there an ordinance saying that they can enforce the no camping rule there or not? I live very close to the mental health facility in which the homeless is proposed to go in there. I'm against it. I'm not going to sit here and say anything about anything I've talked to anybody about, because it appears as though, even through lack of communication and everything else, that's where it's going. Once that is put into place, I'm asking for an answer. Will the no camping ordinance, will it be allowed to be enforced, and will it be enforced? Thank you.
Through the chair, I'll take that question.
If you would care to answer, go right ahead.
So, sir, I will tell you that from what I've been told is that obviously you stated that the homeless have to have a place to go to enforce the ordinance, and that is a state law, as you stated. So once that facility is put in place, yes, that no camping ordinance will be affected, and it will be imposed by hopefully our sheriff and our police chief as well.
Mike Leahy, Yuba County Supervisor across the river. I'd like to first off start saying that I understand everyone's frustrations, up to your eyeballs with the frustrations of the problem we have. But as one of the first speakers stated, this is a much larger problem statewide and nationally. And I want to commend Yuba City and Sutter County for working together with Yuba County and Marysville on a overall master plan that will solve this once and for all and not have it go back over the river, come back over the river. And once the plan is unveiled, it will actually be efficient, and because we're all working on this together. One of the questions is, if we have enough housing beds, then we can enforce. If there's 600 people homeless, if we have 600 beds, we can go around and enforce them all. That's the bottom line. Nobody wants it in their neighborhood, but the project of 14 Forward actually does work, and it didn't increase the crime in the area. And we've also got some more programs and more emergency shelters in place, but it's a regional effort. And I'm real honored to work with Mr. Flores and Manny Cordoza on the solutions in a committee that has been working for over 18 months, almost 2 years now. And you'll hear more about it later on. But I wanted to commend Sutter County and Yuba City for working together in unity. And, I understand, like I said, I understand your frustration, but we all have to do one thing to make this work. We have to all be on board. We have to all be on board to make it happen. Not in my backyard. I don't want it over here. If there's issues, we call them challenges. See, because once you give a hand up, you don't know what can be expected of people who once were homeless. They could become leaders in the community. Yes, they can. They could become your neighbors. They could become your best asset. So I wanted to thank you guys and just let you know that I'm real proud of you guys, and thanks for having us over.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
I had a question for this gentleman. How many people?
Wait, let's keep that between the two of you then, if you don't want it on the record, and go ahead. Welcome.
Rick Libby, Live Oak, California. I just want to express thanks for working on this problem. I'm a member of the Fish and Game Commission for Sutter, and so I can travel up and down the river and so forth. And the thing that obviously, I see this booklet with all the lawsuits that have guaranteed our homeless their civil rights and so forth, but there's something far more important, and that's public health. And the lack of sanitation. These people, when you talk about camping, you're not talking about camping. You're talking about people defecating in the public streets and in the rivers, and that's our drinking water. And we're sending that stuff down to Sacramento. Last night on television, there was a Fox News doctor talking about Los Angeles. And he stated that because of their homeless problem and their lack of control of it, Los Angeles has descended below a third world country. They are on the verge of an absolute catastrophe, and he's predicting that this will happen this summer with bubonic plague. The rats are out of control. As I said, the filth on the streets. The typhoid problem that is just on the verge of exploding. So we in California take great pride in advancing our culture and providing a beautiful state. But that's really, we're descending into a morass of problems. So we've got to get the problem fixed. I just built a house not too long ago. I spent nearly 30 grand trying to produce a septic tank that wouldn't pollute the groundwater, pressure dose system. The county was all over me. They did a very good job. But the county, you go to public health and you say, fix this problem, and their eyes just glaze over because it's got to be a community effort, but we've got to get it done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Looks like we have one more, too.
My name is John Whiteman. I'm a resident of Yuba City. Just speak very briefly. I don't expect a show of hands or anything, but I have a few miles under my belt. I've been very fortunate in my life, but I would be curious how many of you who are talking about policy and programs have experienced homelessness, have experienced mental health issues, have experienced mental health issues, and have spent time incarcerated in your lifetime. Those are experiences, some of which I have experiences. Fortunately, I had a few mentors as a young person that helped me make the correct decisions to not fall in the worst of those categories. The problem is, we here in Yuba and Sutter County, while this is commendable, we came with a pocket full of Band-Aids. We're treating symptoms. We're not treating the problem. If any of you have addressed local and regional media lately, there have been some very helpful discussions by people in law enforcement, by people in government, by people in public health, talking about the larger problem. And we're putting on Band-Aids. I'm suggesting that you don't just walk out of here and say, well, we created so many beds and to screw the neighborhood and everybody, we don't care about that, we're done. I'm asking you to take the problem to the halls of Sacramento and demand that our legislators and the senior staff there honestly and aggressively address the issue. Because otherwise we're going to be back here next year and the year after. And I probably won't be here, but my children and well, no, they won't live here. So anyway, and that's a whole other discussion. But they were graduates of the local high school. But anyway, think long-term, not short-term. And yes, I am a resident of the most impacted neighborhood in Yuba City. And I've spoken to the Board of Supervisors on numerous occasions. How many of you have read this? That's a half-inch thick, two-sided. Good luck.
Thank you, John.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Morgan Dussault Brown. I'm with Habitat for Humanity, and I have the great privilege of working with so many extraordinary people that are committed to addressing and solving the homeless crisis. However, I'd love to echo what this gentleman just said, and said, yes, sheltering is kind of a Band-Aid, and it is kind of the first step. But I would urge everyone in this room to really look at the whole scope of the issue very dynamically. And instead of waiting until there is a crisis, we now have a homeless crisis, we have a looming housing crisis. Let's look at this very dynamically and treat all things concurrently, because if we don't, we're going to further impact other systems. So for example, I was doing some research about the existing rental inventory, because we have so many individuals in our homeless service delivery network, which we refer to as coordinated entry, and they are housing ready, but we can't find housing for them. There are only 40 rental units available on the market today. And the Regional Housing Authority has just proposed a project which would allow for 40 beds of permanent supportive housing, which addresses the mental health issues and everything. And it's kind of an assertive measure to walk alongside our individuals that need a little bit of ancillary support so we can stabilize them. But 40 units, would it double our existing rental inventory in this area alone? That's just mind-blowing to me. So I would urge everyone in this room, especially our elected officials, to really, continue to look at this dynamically. Prevention is absolutely an issue. Looking at our elderly population and making sure they can age in place, and of course, instituting more preventative measures for the children so that we can give them a good, solid foundation so they don't fall into the realm of homelessness as well. So thank you, everyone, and I applaud your efforts today, and together we can make great things happen.
All right, thank you very much. Does anybody else care to say anything? Please feel free. Well, otherwise, we'll move on. Yes. Sure. Yeah, no problem. No problem. I don't know when, but if she wants to say something, that's no problem. All right.